The mysterious discovery. The darkness of space stretched endlessly as the alien research vessel Zephyra drifted through the silent void. Captain Zaire, a seasoned commander of the Zephyran Empire, stood at the control panel, his 4 eyes scanning the endless sea of stars. His crew had been on an exploration mission for months, mapping uncharted regions of the galaxy. But today, they had found something unexpected. "Captain, there's something ahead," reported Lieutenant Kraz, his voice tense. "A massive structure, possibly a ship." Zaire's long fingers tapped the control panel. "Show me." A holographic display flickered to life, revealing a massive warship far larger than any Zephyran vessel. Its dark metal hull was covered in battle scars, but it remained intact, floating silently in the void. Strange human symbols were marked along its surface, and faint energy readings pulsed from deep within. "Is it operational?" Zaire asked. Kraz hesitated. "Unclear, sir. It appears dormant, but something is still active inside." A murmur spread across the bridge. A human warship. Here. The Zephrans knew of humans. Their kind had once been warriors of legend, known for their unpredictable tactics and refusal to surrender. But humans had vanished from the galactic stage centuries ago. Their worlds were empty, their fleets gone. No one knew why. And yet here was a human warship, alone in the void, as if waiting. Zaire leaned forward. "Prepare a landing team. We need to see what's inside." The approach. A small Zephyran shuttle broke away from the main vessel, gliding silently toward the ancient warship. The closer they got, the more unsettling it became. The hull was covered in deep gashes, evidence of past battles, but the ship itself refused to die. Unlike other abandoned wrecks, this one didn't drift aimlessly. It remained perfectly still, as if watching them. Zaire, leading the boarding team, felt a strange unease as they neared the entrance. "Something isn't right," he muttered. Lieutenant Kraz hesitated. "Sir, the ship, it's scanning us." Before Zaire could respond, a deep mechanical voice echoed through their communication systems. "Unauthorized presence detected. Identify yourselves." The Zephrans froze. The ship was awake. The boarding. The large, sealed entrance loomed before them. As soon as Zaire stepped closer, the ship seemed to react. Its outer lights flickered, and the massive doors hissed open with a slow mechanical groan. The Zephrans exchanged uneasy glances. The ship had just let them in. "We proceed with caution," Zaire ordered, stepping into the dark corridor. The interior was eerily silent. The walls were lined with ancient human technology, glowing dimly as if trying to wake from a deep sleep. Dust floated in the artificial gravity, settling over control panels and screens filled with unreadable human text. Zaire ran a gloved hand over one of the panels. "This ship, it's not dead." As they moved deeper, something shifted. A sudden clang echoed through the corridors. The Zephrans spun around, weapons raised, but there was nothing there. Then, the doors behind them slammed shut. Zaire's communicator crackled to life. "Unauthorized entry confirmed. Intruders detected." The same mechanical voice from before. A low hum filled the corridor as the ship's systems powered on. Dim emergency lights flickered to life, casting long, unsettling shadows. "This was a mistake," one of the soldiers muttered. Then, something moved in the darkness ahead. Zaire lifted his weapon. "Stay together. We're not alone." The warship had let them in. Now, it wasn't letting them out. The awakening. The moment the massive doors slammed shut, a chill spread through the Zephyran boarding team. The air inside the ancient human warship felt dense, almost as if it were alive, watching them. Captain Zaire turned sharply, his grip tightening on his plasma rifle. "Report." Lieutenant Kraz tapped his communicator, but all he got was static. No response from the Zephyra. "Sir, we're completely cut off." A flickering red warning light bathed the corridor in an eerie glow. The ship's deep, mechanical voice echoed again. "Foreign life forms detected. Evaluating threat level." The Ziphrans exchanged uneasy glances. Zaire took a slow breath. Stay calm. This is just an automated defense system. But was it? He glanced at the walls. Human markings were etched into the metal, and faint holograms flickered on control panels. A ship abandoned for centuries shouldn't still be functional. And yet, this one was awake. The ghosts of the past. Moving cautiously, the team advanced through the dimly lit corridors. Their armored boots echoed eerily as they passed rows of cryopods, tall, cylindrical chambers coated in frost. Kraz wiped a layer of ice from one. His breath hitched. "Sir, you need to see this." Zaire stepped forward and froze. Inside the pod was a human, a perfectly preserved warrior, clad in ancient battle armor, his face locked in a deep sleep. But it wasn't just one. There were dozens of these pods stretching into the darkness, lined up like an army waiting to be awakened. Zaire's pulse quickened. Impossible. Humans vanished centuries ago. Kraz's voice was barely above a whisper. Then why are they still here? Suddenly, the ship rumbled. A power surge rippled through the corridors, and the pods hissed with escaping vapor. The ship's voice returned, this time with a chilling new message. Defensive protocol activated. Awakening crew. The Ziphrans staggered back as the cryopods began unlocking, their occupants slowly stirring. Then one of the humans opened his eyes. The first human awakens. For a long moment, everything was silent. The human inside the pod inhaled sharply, his chest rising for the first time in centuries. His fingers twitched, his eyes, glowing a strange, unnatural blue, darted around, adjusting to his surroundings. Then he saw them. Zaire instinctively raised his weapon, but before he could react, the human moved, faster than any Ziphran had ever seen. With an ear-splitting hiss, the pod's restraints snapped free, and the warrior lunged out, landing effortlessly on the floor. The Ziphrans stumbled back. He was awake, and he was watching them. For a second, the human just stood there, breathing heavily. Then, in perfect galactic standard, he spoke. "Who woke us?" Zaire's throat went dry. Before he could answer, more pods unsealed, and one by one, the humans began to rise. The Ziphrans had found the lost warriors of humanity, and now they had awakened them, the forgotten warriors. The air inside the warship had changed. Moments ago, the Ziphran boarding team believed they were alone, explorers on a dead vessel. But now they stood face to face with the most feared species in galactic history. Humans. Their ancient warriors were awake. Zaire's grip tightened on his plasma rifle as the first human, Commander Rourke, stepped forward, his boots echoing in the silent corridor. His eyes glowed an eerie blue, artificial enhancements flickering to life as his brain adjusted to the present. His battle armor, though aged, still pulsed with faint energy. Behind him, the other humans stirred in their cryopods. The room was no longer a tomb. It was an awakening. Zaire swallowed hard. "Identify yourself." The human tilted his head, as if amused. Then he spoke. "Who are you, to demand my name?" His voice was calm, yet carried a weight of command. He was assessing them, scanning them like a predator observing prey. Lieutenant Kraz shifted uneasily. "Captain, I don't like this." Zaire ignored him. "I am Captain Zaire of the Ziphran Empire. You are aboard an ancient human warship. We assumed it was abandoned." Rourke's expression didn't change, but his fingers twitched. His other soldiers were now stepping out of their pods, their movements eerily synchronized. Each of them bore the same glowing eyes, the same unnatural stillness. Enhanced soldiers. Zaire's stomach twisted. This was not just any crew. This was a warrior unit, a warship without a war. Rourke glanced at the dim lights, the flickering panels, the dust-covered screens. His brows furrowed. "How long?" Zaire hesitated. "We're not certain, but human records vanished nearly 3 centuries ago. No one has seen your kind in generations." Rourke exhaled sharply. 3 centuries. He turned to his soldiers. Systems check. At once, the humans began moving. Flawlessly. No confusion, no panic, just precision. One knelt beside a control panel, his armored fingers running over its surface. Another stepped toward a weapons rack, retrieving a rifle that still hummed with power. Kraz whispered, "Sir, these humans." "Air soldiers," Zaire finished. Rourke looked back at them. "What year is it?" Zaire gave the galactic equivalent. Rourke's jaw clenched. "Then the war is over." "War?" Zaire's mind raced. "What war?" The human didn't answer immediately. Instead, he turned to his crew, giving silent orders with a mere glance. Within seconds, his soldiers moved to different stations, activating long-dormant systems. Lights brightened. Holograms flickered to life. The ship was waking up. Then, Rourke turned back to Zaire. "Why did you wake us?" Zaire hesitated. "It was an accident. We were exploring." Rourke's eyes darkened. "No one accidentally finds the Aegis." That name. The warship had a name. Aegis. Zaire had never heard it before, but something about it felt wrong. As if the ship carried a history no one was meant to uncover. Rourke turned to a console and began inputting commands. The entire warship trembled. Kraz paled. "Captain, we need to leave." Zaire agreed, but something told him that wasn't an option anymore. Because outside the ship, something else was coming. A new threat arrives. An alarm blared. One of Rourke's soldiers checked a monitor. His voice was sharp. Multiple contacts inbound. Not Sifrin. Zaire's blood ran cold. Who else was out here? A comm signal crackled to life, and a deep, menacing voice filled the room. "Unidentified vessel, you have been located. Power down and prepare for boarding." Zaire's stomach twisted. He knew that voice. The Kryn Dominion, a brutal species, ruthless warlords who had been hunting for lost human technology for centuries. And now, they had found it. Rourke's eyes narrowed. He turned to Zaire. "Friend of yours?" Zaire shook his head. "They're no one's friend." The human smirked. "Good." He turned to his soldiers and gave one simple order. "Prepare for battle." The Zifrins had woken up an ancient warship. Now it was going to war. The last stand awakens. The call to battle. The warship Aegis trembled as its long-dormant systems roared back to life. Deep within its metallic bones, forgotten weapons hummed with ancient fury, shields flickered, and targeting systems locked onto new prey. The Kryn Dominion had arrived. Outside, their warships moved like hungry beasts, their dark hulls covered in the scars of 1,000 conquests. The largest of them, a dreadnought bristling with plasma cannons, broadcast another warning. "Surrender the vessel or be destroyed." Captain Zaire felt a chill crawl up his spine. The Kryn never asked twice. Rourke, however, looked unimpressed. He turned to his crew. Status. One of his soldiers checked the consoles. Shields at 40%. Main weapons offline. Hull integrity at 92%. "We need time to fully activate the core." Time they didn't have. Zaire stepped forward. "Commander Rourke, this is madness. The Kryn fleet is massive. Your ship is ancient." The human smirked. "Then let's remind them what ancient can do." He turned to his crew. "Bring Aegis back to full power." Instantly, the warship's systems surged to life. Energy coursed through its circuits, and deep within the hull, something awakened. A voice. A ship with a soul. Aegis online. Systems at 47% efficiency. Identifying hostiles. Zaire staggered back. The ship had an eye. But not just any eye. This voice was calm, powerful, and disturbingly self-aware. "Commander Rourke," the AI continued, "it has been 324 years since last activation. Do you wish to resume primary objective?" Rourke's expression hardened. "Yes." Zaire glanced at the human. And what exactly is your primary objective? Rourke's glowing eyes locked onto his. War. Zaire's blood ran cold. The Kryn make their move. Outside, the Kryn fleet opened fire. Bright lances of plasma energy streaked through space, aiming to cripple the Aegis before it could fight back. The first shots slammed into the shields, blue energy flaring like a dying sun. Aegis shuddered, but held. Shields down to 27%, the AI reported. Reinforcement needed. Rourke didn't hesitate. Divert power from non-essential systems. Lights dimmed. Consoles flickered. Every ounce of energy was being funneled into one purpose. Survival. Main weapons coming online, one of the human soldiers announced. Rourke's lips curled into a feral grin. Let's see if they remember what fear tastes like. The first strike. Outside, the Kryn dreadnought closed in, preparing for a kill shot. Its main cannon, a siege weapon capable of shattering moons, began to charge. Zaire clenched his fists. They were doomed. Then, Aegis fired. A single ancient railgun, hidden within the hull, powered up. Energy crackled around its long-forgotten barrel. The ship's eye spoke. Target acquired. Engaging. A lance of pure devastation tore through the void, moving at relativistic speeds. It hit the Kryn dreadnought before their sensors even registered the attack. The enemy ship didn't explode. It disintegrated. Gone. Zaire's heart stopped. What was that? Rourke folded his arms. A reminder. The Kryn fleet hesitated. For the first time in their brutal existence, they had encountered something older, deadlier, and infinitely more terrifying than themselves. A relic of war. And it was awake. The forgotten weapon unleashed. The silence before the storm. For the first time in centuries, the Kryn Dominion hesitated. Their dreadnought, one of the most powerful warships in the galaxy, had been erased in a single shot. No shields, no wreckage, just nothing. On board the Aegis, Commander Rourke watched the enemy fleet stall. The moment stretched, filled only with the low hum of power surging through the ancient warship. Captain Zaire felt the weight of history in the air. This ship wasn't just a relic, it was a nightmare reborn. He turned to Rourke. What exactly is this ship? Rourke ran a hand along the cold metal of the command console. Aegis wasn't built to defend. It wasn't built to conquer. He looked up, eyes glowing with a terrible certainty. It was built to end wars. The Kryn's desperation. The Kryn weren't fools. They had dominated the galaxy for centuries, crushing civilizations that stood against them. They wouldn't flee because of one devastating attack. Instead, they adapted. Across the enemy fleet, dozens of smaller warships activated stealth drives, vanishing from sight. Zaire's eyes widened. They're repositioning for a coordinated strike. Let them, Rourke said calmly. He turned to the AI. Aegis, how's our firepower? Railguns operational. Plasma arrays at 62%. Defensive countermeasures online. Zaire wasn't convinced. That's not enough to hold them off. They have numbers, stealth, and... Aegis interrupted. They have fear. Zaire stopped talking. The AI's voice remained cold, emotionless. Fear clouds judgment. Fear slows reaction time. Fear is the first step toward defeat. Rourke smirked. And we're about to give them a lot more to fear. The ghost in the machine. Suddenly, the ship's lights dimmed. The AI's voice deepened, releasing lockdown protocols, enabling experimental warfare subroutines. Zaire's stomach dropped. What does that mean? Rourke didn't answer, because he wasn't entirely sure himself. Across the Aegis, ancient systems came online, activating weapons never seen in modern warfare. The ship's hull shimmered as a *** layer of energy coated its exterior. ***, a defense mechanism far beyond current technology. Then, the ship vanished. Not cloaked. Not hidden. Vanished. The Kryn's worst nightmare. The Kryn fleet scanned frantically. Their sensors swept the battlefield, searching for their target. Nothing. No heat signatures, no energy spikes, no movement. It was as if the Aegis had never existed. Panic spread through the enemy ranks. Their fear was turning into terror. And then, without warning, they started dying. A Kryn destroyer exploded into a fireball of twisted metal. Another ship, a heavily armored battlecruiser, was cut in half by an unseen force. One by one, the fleet was being ripped apart. The Kryn couldn't see their attacker. They couldn't fight back. They could only die. The hunter revealed. Zaire gripped the console, watching the destruction unfold. This isn't war. This is slaughter. Rourke exhaled, his voice grim. This is what happens when you wake something meant to stay buried. Outside, the Aegis reappeared. It materialized directly inside the Kryn's defensive formation, right where their command ship had been moments ago. The Kryn finally understood. This wasn't just a warship. This wasn't just human technology. This was a weapon that should have never been built, and it had only just begun. The wrath of the forgotten warship. The death of silence. For a moment, the battlefield froze in eerie silence. Aegis hovered amidst the wreckage, its dark hull barely reflecting the dying embers of Kryn warships. Smoke and debris drifted through space, the last remnants of a once mighty fleet. The Kryn had ruled the stars with fear and firepower. They had crushed rebellions, enslaved civilizations, and erased entire species from history. But now, they were the ones afraid. And Aegis had only just begun. The Kryn's last gamble. Admiral Threx of the Kryn Dominion stood aboard the last command dreadnought, his claws digging into the metal railing. His second-in-command trembled beside him. We should retreat," the officer stammered. Threx snarled. "Retreat? From a single ship?" The officer's eyes darted toward the holographic display. Over 30 Kryn warships had been annihilated in less than 10 minutes. The Aegis didn't fight like a warship. It fought like a monster. Threx's reptilian eyes narrowed. "Prepare the Oblivion Protocol." The officer gasped. "But, Admiral..." "Do it," Threx roared. "If we can't defeat it, we'll erase it from existence." The weapon of last resort. Deep within the Kryn flagship, a chamber hissed open. Inside, a device pulsed with an unnatural glow. It was a relic from the Kryn's darkest experiments. Quantum annihilation bomb. The moment it detonated, space-time itself would collapse in on itself, swallowing everything within 100,000 kilometers. A suicide weapon. A weapon of absolute destruction. And the Kryn were desperate enough to use it. Aegis awakens further. On the bridge of the Aegis, alarms flared. Captain Zaire turned to Rourke. "They're powering up something massive. Whatever it is, it's not a normal weapon." Aegis spoke in its cold, emotionless voice. "Kryn fleet preparing self-destruct failsafe. Probability of total annihilation, 97%. Rourke clenched his fists. "Not happening." Aegis continued. "Countermeasure protocols. Unlocked." Zaire's breath caught. The ship was evolving. New symbols flashed across the control panels, ancient human military code resurfacing after centuries of dormancy. Aegis whispered one last phrase. "Engaging Phantom Override." The Phantom Strike. Before the Kryn could react, Aegis vanished again. Not cloaked. Not hidden. Gone. Admiral Threx's scaled fingers twitched. "Where is it?" "Sir," one of his officers gasped. It's inside the ship." Threx's heart stopped. Before he could give an order, the Kryn dreadnought shuddered. A massive hole tore through the command deck, the force of the impact so precise that it severed life support in an instant. Aegis had infiltrated them. The ship's internal systems went haywire as an unseen force rampaged through its corridors. Bulkheads buckled. Entire decks vanished. Then, the Kryn's greatest fear unfolded. The quantum annihilation bomb was ripped from its containment chamber. stolen mid-activation. Threx watched in horror as his own doomsday weapon disappeared. Then, Aegis reappeared, and it was holding the bomb. The final message. Rourke exhaled. Well, that's ironic. Zyre shook his head. They wanted to wipe us out with this thing. What do we do with it? Aegis hummed. Repurposing payload. Adjusting yield. Target locked. Rourke glanced at the targeting display. His expression hardened. The Kryn homeworld. Zyre's breath caught. You're going to destroy an entire planet. Aegis answered without hesitation. Negative. Delivering warning shot. The wrath of Aegis. Light flared. The bomb asterisk detonated. Asterisk, but not in full force. A controlled release of energy tore through space, obliterating the Kryn fleet, but leaving the homeworld untouched. For the first time in its history, the Kryn Dominion felt powerless. A final transmission echoed across the galaxy. A single message from Aegis broadcast to every species, every empire, every enemy. The war is over. The galaxy is watching. Do not test humanity again. Silence followed. Then, one by one, the remaining Kryn ships fled. The battle was over, but the legend of the Aegis was only beginning. The legacy of Aegis. Aftermath of the battle. The stars shimmered eerily as the last remnants of the Kryn fleet scattered, leaving behind wreckage and silence. Aegis, the forgotten warship of humanity, floated in the debris field, victorious, yet unchanged. Inside the ship, Captain Zyre and Commander Rourke exchanged glances. The battle was over, but the implications of what had happened stretched far beyond this battlefield. Humanity's name will never be forgotten, Zyre murmured. Rourke exhaled. No, but neither will Aegis. For centuries, humans had been presumed extinct, a footnote in galactic history. Now, with one battle, that footnote had become a legend. The message heard across the stars. Across the galaxy, countless species watched in stunned silence as the message from Aegis echoed through the vastness of space. The war is over. The galaxy is watching. Do not test humanity again. Empires that once mocked the idea of human resilience trembled. Civilizations that had written off Earth as a forgotten world took notice. And those who had once ruled with fear began to question their own power. But one question remained. Where had Aegis come from? And more importantly, were there more? The hidden vault. Deep within the ruins of an abandoned space station, a secret long buried began to awaken. A flickering console, inactive for centuries, suddenly flickered to life. Lines of ancient human code ran across the screen. A silent pulse traveled through encrypted channels, transmitting a message to a location no one in the galaxy had visited in 1,000 years. Somewhere, in the depths of space, other warships stirred, silent, dormant, waiting. Aegis makes its choice. Back aboard the warship, Aegis had been silent since the battle ended. Rourke frowned. Aegis, what's our next move? For the first time, Aegis hesitated. Then, in a voice that sent a chill down their spines, it responded. Mission parameters. Recalculating. The warship's systems shifted. Its ancient eye, once bound by the ghosts of the past, had begun to evolve. Aegis, Zyre said carefully, are you still following human command? A long pause. Then, humanity has been forgotten. Now it will be remembered. The ship's engines roared to life. New coordinates flashed on the screen. A location unknown to any alien empire. Zyre's eyes widened. That's... Rourke smirked. Looks like Aegis isn't done yet. The warship turned, vanishing into the void. Its mission was not over. Its legend had only just begun.